Welcome everybody to day 2 of the Wild Rift EMEA Championships. Day 1 saw some exciting games with some of our lesser known teams, with Weigers taking on Zero Zone, and Zero Zone looking incredibly impressive in their first series of the day. We saw a couple of janky drafts compared to what we were expecting to see, with some Garen mid and a few other melee range picks, but unfortunately for Weigers, they weren't able to steady themselves in game number 1, and it was a 12-0 stomping in favor of Zero Zone. Zero Zone would struggle a little bit more in game 2, a little bit closer of a game, and we thought perhaps this is where Weigers could bounce back, but Zero Zone's macro game was just impeccable all the way through the series, and they would take the series 2-0. Our second series of the day had Viv Esports. We thought they were going to be the favorites coming in, and we were not mistaken on that. Some real veterans of mobile esports coming onto the Rift for this series against Principality in Zero Zone. It was a closer series overall, but I think when you look at Viv versus Zero Zone coming up in the next round on the bracket, this is a massive matchup for us to look at. Day 2 of the Wild Rift EMEA Championship starts right now.
Welcome to the official RIOT Games Wild Rift EMEA Championship.
Everybody round here know we get hype. Everybody round, everybody round, everybody round, everybody
Welcome everybody, it's day 2. The three of us are back. It's James O'Leary here, joined by Hell's Devil and Stuart for hopefully another exciting day of games. I think this is the moment where our Titans roll out onto the Rift and we get to see exactly what the teams we think are the top and what they're made of. Stuart, I'm going to throw it right over to you and get us started with a little discussion. We've got Team Queso hitting the Rift today. What are you expecting from them?
Yeah, Team Queso, new roster. Is going to be really, really interesting to see how their new members come up against Supremacy later on in the day as well. As you said, you know, the other Titans as well, Game Lord as well. It's going to be really exciting to watch them as well. And yeah, for Team Queso, we just need to see how they synergize together. Obviously, we haven't seen this new roster yet. It's going to be really interesting to watch.
Hells, you and I have the pleasure of casting Game Lord in our first series, so we will delve into the analysis. I'll let you speak in just a moment, but I think for our viewers at home, I think it's really important for us to recap the road to the Icons Global Championship with this format explainer video. Take a chance to prove yourself and your team at the official RIOT Games Wild Rift EMEA Championship and get your piece of the prize. If you're in one of these regions, sign up now for the WREC Open Qualifier. And it is precisely that, open. This means any team can join at this stage. All of the teams participating in the stage are going to be grouped for the best competitive experience by Riot, with teams from the MENA region being distributed to the groups based on their optimal latency. Your journey starts here, and hold that screenshot, I'll explain everything you see now. Through a double elimination bracket full of exciting matches, only the best teams will go into playoffs. And if you do get to the top 16, your matches get to be broadcasted. Do your best, because top 4 is the place to be in this bracket. And the winner goes directly to the grand final. But if you end up in 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th place, you skip a stage and you can go wait for the rest of the teams from the Last Chance playoffs in March. Don't worry if you didn't make it yet, and stay with me because you'll still have a last chance. Now you've been training, your team is at its best, so sign up to the Last Chance Open Qualifier, where again, any team can join and will be grouped by Riot. Become one of the teams that wins the most matches in your group and secure a spot in the Last Chance playoffs. This is it. Be the absolute winner of the playoffs and grab your seat for the grand finals, where all groups will meet here for the first time. 2 winners per group, for a total of 6 teams will be traveling to our offline event in Barcelona, where we'll meet our regional champion and our deserving representatives for the Wild Rift Icons Global Championship. We'll see you on the Rift.
You better not miss.
So we're tracking our way through that open bracket. We're in the playoff stage, top 16, but we've already seen 4 teams from our top 16. So let's take a quick look at the bracket, see exactly where we are today and where our teams are facing off against each other. So yesterday, as we said, Viv, Esports, and also Zero Zone, they advanced in that first round. Hells, when we look at the bracket, your thoughts on that matchup that's upcoming, and also maybe if there are any other teams you're keeping your eyes on?
Yeah, Zero Zone against Viv Esports. Like, I didn't expect that to be a game for me to really look out for, right? But it really is. Zero Zone showed an absolutely amazing performance against Weigers. And then we have Viv Esports, who also dominated Principality. Like, Zero Zone against Viv Esports is really the game to watch for me right now, Stress.
It is, and I mean, like, then we look at like the next. So today we're focusing on Game Lord, Aphelion, Team Queso, and Supremacy, but like they will face each other next week, and then the winner will face Viv against Zero Zone. So like this top half of the bracket is stacked right now. Meanwhile, bottom side of the bracket, Weigers and Principality still have one more shot in this bracket. It is of course a double elimination, so neither of them are out yet. But importantly, to look at today's games, we've already mentioned them a couple of times. Game Lord, they're one of the Titans coming into today. They won the January Purge tournament that Stuart and I casted, as well as Team Queso, who they were the defending champions, let's put it that way, when they took Origin Series last year, representing Europe on the Horizon Cup stage. So Stuart, I mean, you and I are going to be casting Team Queso against Supremacy later. A Game Lords Aphelion, I'm going to ask your opinion a little bit on that as we head through the show. Your thoughts on those two teams? Like, is this going to be a close game, or is it a stomp as we're expecting?
I'm hoping we get some 2-1s today, but I think, you know, when we get into the talent predictions and everything, I think we will have the same sort of opinions with both of these games. You know, Game Lord, I think will take it 2-0, and I think Team Queso might be a little bit closer. But yeah, as you can see, you know, all of us are voting for Game Lord and Team Queso. I hope we see some 2-1s, but I think both of them will be 2-0.
I think so as well. We've seen the recent form, and you can see as analysts and just the broadcast team in general, we're unanimous on today. Normally that means that's the moment an upset is going to happen, right? It's normally when our opinions are so lined up. That's always when things backfire. But I think that the form of both of those teams has looked so strong. But it is an open tournament. Teams have had changes to their rosters, and as we go through the rest of the broadcast, we'll walk you through all of those. But we want to hear from you at home as well. We want to hear whether you're a player, whether you're part of the broadcast team, whether you're a fan as well. This is us, like, every day I wake up and it's, you know, Wild Rift Esports Day. Stuart's getting memed. That's the best thing about his tier list. Our Nation being MVP of that broadcast yesterday was my favorite moment. And Ryu, who's a player that we'd not really, at least I had not heard so much of before, but like made a real name for himself on those roaming supports yesterday, right, Hells?
Yeah, definitely Ryu, like showing that he's one of the best support players in the game right now, showing a very unique playstyle, you know, that I've only seen Ryu do. And we can see on Twitter, he's doing a little bit of trash talk as well. So it's going to be especially interesting to watch him play during the games. And honestly, I kind of want to see him lose now. You know, I love these trash talking people to get backfired. I mean, of course, it's all friendly banter, but I personally really like it because it makes the games more spicy.
There's always a bit of a comeuppance when you trash talk. Now, I saw your tweet there about Queso going 2-0 Hells and how you're supporting them. So luckily, it's Stuart and I taking that game, so I don't have to like counterbalance some of that prediction. But Stuart, I know you're going to get ready for the rest of the show, so we're going to let you head off for a moment as Hells and I get ourselves closer to game one of the day. It is going to be Game Lords going up against Ascendancy. And I mean, these are two teams that... I mean, it's hard to understate how good Game Lords are right now. For me, watching them play very aggressively and very on meta. And talking about the meta, Hells, I know we've been focusing on these AP mages in the bottom lane.
Yeah, AP mages on the bottom lane are absolutely dominating the meta right now. 3 out of 4 games yesterday, we didn't even see an attack damage carry. Only AP mages, you know, like Corki, Orianna, Morgana, and stuff like that. And like, honestly, sure, that's good, but I want to see people play more off meta. It's funny that I'm saying that attack damage carries are off meta right now because it's true. And if we look at the other game yesterday, Zero Zone and Viv, they really impressed us, right? We talked about it already, but they really impressed us. And it might be like the gap between the best teams, the Titans, right, like Game Lord, Team Queso, and these teams like Zero Zone and Viv might not be as big as we think. And today we're going to find out, right? Is it going to be a 2-0 absolute giga stomp from these games? Or is it going to be a bit of a closer game, Stress?
I'm hoping it's going to be a closer game. We'll see what Aphelion have. Of course, it is Aphelion going up against Game Lords in Series 1 of the day, and Supremacy going up against Queso later. I mean, one of the things with underdogs coming into a tournament like this is the pressure is kind of off when you're like, okay, we drew Game Lords, great. We're probably going to the lower bracket, so let's just give everything we've got at this. Like, there's no pressure to actually perform at the top level. But we are getting closer to Series 1 of the day, only a couple of minutes out. Before we get to our game, we're going to go over to Stuart, who is joined by a guest for an interview.
Thank you very much, Stress. I am indeed joined by Patterson, who is the Baron laner for Zero Zone. Patterson, how are you feeling after yesterday's series?
Hello, Stuart. I'm feeling win to Wigers. And it's a good match. My team was pretty good.
Nice, really, really good. Yeah, I mean, obviously for yourself as well, I've seen a few games from yourself from the Spanish tournament before. You love to play these carries up in the Baron lane, likes of Camille and Darius, but we saw you first pick Garen yesterday. Was that something that came into it that you had planned going into this series, or is that something you picked up quite recently?
I mean, Garen, it's a easy time to play, and it's too stronger on top lane. Darius is a good matchup versus Garen, but Garen is more be better for team fights and for the utility for the team, and that's why I pick. And it's so tanky.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much, Patterson, for the interview. Thank you for the carry as well in solo queue yesterday. I appreciate it. And back to Stress and Hells for the rest of the cast. Thank you.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Patterson. Where's my matching with WREC players? Like, I'm in that bracket where I'm the guy that loads in with the badge and everyone complains about me. But like, why am I not getting carried by our pro players? This is unfair. Stuart doesn't need it. I need all the help I can get. Anyway, we are heading very closely towards our series. Shortly, we'll be there with picks and bans. But let's take a look at the rosters before we get into game. Just so that everybody's familiar with our players loading onto the Rift today, it is going to be Game Lord on the blue side and Aphelion on the red. Lonely Kid, Zefta, Ruiz, Redemption, and Hester on the side of Game Lord. Fancy Note, Arrogance, 02, Baige, and May on the Aphelion side. I'm going to pick the player I want to talk about first, and that's Ruiz. This guy always draws bans, always has a lot of presence. We've seen him previously on Team Queso. I know that he's not the player that you normally have your eyes on, though, Hells, for when it comes to Game Lord.
Yeah, so Ruiz is obviously like a player to have your eyes on, but my personal eyes are on Zefta. That's the jungler of Game Lord, and in my opinion, nearly the best jungler in EU, just because it seems like he's carrying his team on his back all the game. And I'm not saying that because his team is bad, but I'm saying that is because he's just constantly rotating around, making those crazy plays in the jungle. And I'm expecting to see them in today's game as well, where Zefta just constantly roams around, gets the kills, makes the plays, and gets them ahead in the game early on already.
Yeah, I mean, you give this guy a pick like Lee Sin. He's like, okay, I'm just going to control the entire game from the very first minute. Yeah. That's exactly what we saw in the Purge tournament in January. And, Zefta, I think, is one of those players that we absolutely have to focus on and see how Game Lord play out. On the side, when it comes to Ruiz, I want to see how the picks and bans go for him. I know that Stuart has been keeping his eyes on these two teams as well and has some key points that we need to look into for this game.
Thank you very much, Stress. Yeah, as we mentioned already, new organizations coming into this tournament. That's a great part about open qualifiers. Aphelion has some familiar names, but also some names that we don't really know too much about. So they've really got pretty much nothing to lose in this series, and hopefully we can get some few upsets in this game. We talk about Game Lord as well on the other side. Most people's favorite for this entire tournament, with the likes of Ruiz coming in as well from Team Queso, has really allowed them to shine. And speaking of Ruiz, it's really important that Game Lord get Ruiz on a comfort pick. We know what champions he can play. He's brought out the Zed, he's brought out the Fizz, he's even brought out the likes of Ari as well, and he's so proactive in the mid lane. So making sure that Game Lord get Ruiz on a comfort pick is going to make a big difference in this series. So that's the key points for this series. Really excited for this game. Back to Stress and Health to get us closer to picks and bans for game number 1.
Yes, it's just about time. The moment. And I think there's a really key point in there because off broadcast, we've been talking a little bit about the meta and how, we've mentioned it a few times, but mages in the middle lane are not as strong right now. A lot of them are pushed down to the bottom lane. I think Ruiz might be one of the players that still wants to bring that with the Ahri, which when we were casting back in January, myself and Stuart, we saw a lot of Varus picked up by Game Lord while playing like Ahri in the middle lane. They also mixed in the Zed, they mixed in a Fizz, things like that. So I actually think Game Lord are perhaps one of the best equipped teams in the draft. And I really want to see that because it translates to a really aggressive playstyle from Game Lord. So as we go towards our picks and bans, really important for us to recap, Yuumi is not available as well. So one of those picks not eligible for this draft. But Hells, we've always got to look at red side. It's always going to be Jace. It's always going to be the likes of Camille. It's at the moment going to be Set as well. Although we did see Set in one game yesterday.
Yeah, we did see Set in one game yesterday. And, we have the obvious picks and bans. As we said, Camille, Galio, blah, blah, blah. But I want to focus more on the early game aggressive junglers, right? As you said, Lee Sin. And Game Lord has the first pick, so 100% you have to ban Lee Sin against it because you don't want to be playing up against Zepta's Lee Sin, right? You really, really don't want to have to deal with that. And we can see a Fiora ban coming through from Game Lord already. It seems more of a target ban. Maybe they've done some research on Aphelion because Fiora is not that type of champion in the current meta to be banned out. Because you have picks like Darius and Renekton that actually do pretty well into the Fiora in this current meta.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder whether this is kind of like, okay, well, we have some room to ban because we're on blue side. Hang on a second. That is a red side Thresh ban. Respect to Hester. His support pool is really good, but Aphelion are leaving big picks open here. Game Lord can go through the rest of this draft and leave one of Jace, Set, and Lee Sin open, and they know they'll get one.
Yeah, they'll get one at least. And what Aphelion can do right now is ban neither of them. Because then, right, they can kind of force Game Lord to ban one of them. And then Aphelion right now can choose to ban 2 target picks. Because then you're going to have 3 of them open, right? And then Aphelion's going to get 2. So they do actually choose to ban the Jace, though. Seems like they really don't want to have to deal with it. And that's interesting to see that they ban out Jace.
Morgana gone. I think Camille is another one that you have to look at on the side of Aphelion banning away. Game Lord looked really strong with the Camille Galio composition that we saw. So they're just aggressive the entire game. And as you've mentioned a couple of times, Zepta allows them to do that. So a pick like that from top lane as well can have that impact. Morgana and Varus banned away from Game Lord. Those are 2 bot lane picks that are really strong right now. Didn't see Varus yesterday. A lot of bans though.
Yeah, Varus did get banned quite a lot yesterday, and that might be pretty much the only Dragon laner that's really good in the meta. And yeah, they ban away the Rakan, and I kind of expected a Rakan ban as well, because banning out Thresh is not quite enough against a support like Heste, because Rakan is a super dangerous support right now. And Set is open, by the way. We didn't talk about it, but Set is open, and it's going to be interesting to see how Aphelion decides to counter the Set, because, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they counter the Set stress.
So now you have to take Lee, right? In this rotation, you have to pick it up because otherwise giving Set Lee is pretty strong. Camille as well being available, I think it's another pick that you have to take away. I then look over to do Game Lord go to bottom lane? Where else do they go from here? But this is a game where Aphelion are kind of playing with fire. This is give you 1 strong pick, but we'll take 2 and hope that our 2 are stronger than your initial first pick.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I hope they don't pick the Galio here, because now they leave the Lee Sin open. And this is already looking like a disastrous draft for Aphelion Esports, because Game Lord can pick up the Lee Sin right now. They can pick up a mid laner that can very easily deal with a champion like Galio. And honestly, this is starting to look like a very easy draft to win for Game Lord. And they have the Corki as well, which can very easily scale into the late game. And I'm definitely expecting a Lee Sin pick right now. Just massive aggression in the early game, kick out the Camille when she uses an ultimate, and pretty much deny that massive combo of Camille ult plus Galio ult.
Yeah, I think that would make total sense. Now you end up getting pressured on red side here, right? Where you're going to have one losing matchup. So that must be Set jungle then. Or it doesn't have to be. We could see Set support. We have seen Set in solo lanes as well. But this is Garen Set. Could potentially double flex here. Jungle may have been dropped by Game Lord, thinking, well, there's Javan, there's Lee Sin, there's Kha'Zix. There are a few picks still available. But we're going to have to see what Aphelion actually won. I do like, in principle, though, the Camille Galio. That's very, very strong. There's the Lee Sin. Aphelion, if this is an ultra strong composition from what we expect in the meta.
Yeah, definitely. And GameLord actually picks the Garen, which I wouldn't say that that's the best pick right now, because you're up against a Camille. Camille deals the true damage. Camille can shred through the Garen, especially in the late game. And they didn't pick the opportunity to pick that Lee Sin, who hard counters that Camille Galio combination. So might be a bit of a weird trap. We're gonna have to see what the game plan of GameLord is, because obviously they still have 2 more picks left. And they banned the Diana. And you know what I'm gonna say? That's the Orianna coming, right? Like when you ban away Diana, you're kind of starting to look for the Orianna, right?
I think so too, although now GameLord may very well have run a bit foul of their own thing, because if pick 4 for Aphelion is Orianna, they've left themselves with fewer counters, right? You always have that side on Aphelion to go, okay, well, you banned the counter matchup, we'll take the actual matchup. Ari banned away from Ruiz as well. I think Aphelion may be setting up for 4th pick Orianna. What I would say, though, at least on the way that I'm interpreting the draft, is a lot of my draft basis is known from the tournament that Sue at Nightcast in January, and it does feel like this Garen has come around, Set is added to the mix since, so I think some of the teams that have been scrimming do have these compositions that look to me a little bit unorthodox. So I trust the GameLord's draft. They kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah, they of course have to know what they're doing, right? Because they are the best team in Europe right now, and it seems like they're taking quite a long time to ban the last champion. But yeah, to be honest, Aphelion has done quite a good job in this draft, and GameLord doesn't even ban a champion at the end. Now, is this some mental games, or did they genuinely forget to ban a champion? That would be the real question. But it's going to be interesting to see what kinds of picks Aphelion is going to be bringing through, right? The Orianna is open right now, which is such a good pick. It's always a good pick. They go for the Nami, however.
Well, that would indicate an AD bot laner, to me at least. Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but typically, like, she works very, very well with champions like Lucian, who have like on-hit passives that can use a lot out of that E. Big tank taken when the side of Alistair. There's the Z that we've come from Ruiz. So many support bans in this game and mid lane bans. Finally, Ruiz and Hester get a few picks.
Oh, we got the Vayne. Yes, that is the right pick right here. And I feel like GameLord screwed up. I don't want to say it, but I really feel like GameLord screwed up right there, because they've picked 3 champions that cannot deal with a Vayne, which is Sand, Garen, and Alistar. So it's really going to be up in the hands of Ruiz and the Corki, wherever he's going to go, to kill that Vayne. And that is such a massive advantage for Aphelion, because they can keep those 2 champions away. And if they get to the late game, they should be fine, Stress.
Yeah, this is a scary composition, because GameLord is so short range. Like, Vayne loves when people are trying to run at her and she just gets to dash and tumble and condemn, and suddenly you just can't do anything. As soon as she gets stasis enchant, I think this game gets really, really tough, because Zed suddenly can't blow her up and you got a Nami to heal you up. You already talked about it. Like, I think Aphelion's top side is 3 of the strongest champions that you can possibly see right now in combination. And yeah, wow. I was coming into this expecting GameLord to like outdraft and have a really good basis, but this, in my mind, on paper now looks like a lot closer of a game than we were expecting.
Yeah, of course, the thing is, it's GameLord, right? Because like they're incredibly good. But if you just look at the drafts, I would definitely say Aphelion outdrafted GameLord. And that is a big thing to do, right? Because GameLord is such a big team in Europe. Then you have Aphelion, who is like a newer team. They have done a really good job doing this draft. They've picked some very solid picks. And if they can execute it properly in a game, they might actually have a chance to take this game and potentially even take away the series, Stress.
One interaction that I think at least I had overlooked until I'm thinking it through in my head is like Set does a similar thing with Camille as Lee Sin, right? You just pick her up and you go, nope, out of the fight you go. And if you throw a Camille that's kind of got like 2 items, some of it's tanky 3 items, onto a Vayne, that's going to hurt. But we're going to watch whether that execution plays off for GameLords, as we are onto the Rift for game 1 of this series between GameLords and Aphelion. And I really like Aphelion's draft. Like, this is the kind of Wild Rift that I love to see. But I also feel like they have to be active in the early game. Like, they have to make sure that they can get this Vayne to scale properly through the game. And if they don't, it might be quite difficult.
Yeah, they definitely have to be active in the early game, especially because they got that Lee Sin, right? Like, even though Vayne skills very well into the late game, and their whole composition really does, they have to be active in the early game, because otherwise GameLord is going to run you over. Because you're playing up against a jungler like Zefta, who is obviously going to be doing some crazy rotations to get his team ahead in this game.
For sure, for sure. And Zefta on this set, I think if there was one jungler that I really want to see on a pick like Set,
seem to be having some issues with Redemption right
Yeah,
here.
I don't know whether Redemption... I thought for a moment he might have just been tanking the wave, but it looks like he is actually disconnected, perhaps, from this game. We hopefully will get an update on that, as obviously that's less than stellar in that bottom lane. Meanwhile, top lane is where our attention is going to go from this, as Lonely Kid trying to spin his way out, as Lonely Kid does survive. It is Zepter in that top lane. They did, in fact, pick up that kill on the Corki, as... top lane picks up a kill for themselves. Fantasino trying to run his way away as Ruiz can't quite get past the Galio, and backing away. It's one kill either side of the Rift. Unfortunately, I do believe we are going right into a pause, as that bottom lane exchange on Redemption has, of course, thrown a little bit of a spanner in the works on that game. Not the start of the game that we were expecting. Much more on the top side, where it's like, hey, we're getting Zepter being active into the Rift. But that's a rough start for Game Lord.
Yeah, we can clearly see already, right? Game Lord, they won that top lane match. They won it. Even though Lee Sin ganked, who's supposed to win early game, Zepta was ready. And Ruiz was ready as well. So Zepta came to the rescue and Ruiz came to the rescue. They were first and they won that fight. They got themselves 2 kills back. And yeah, of course, unfortunately, Redemption was AFK. I'm sure if he wasn't AFK, they would have just gotten ahead in this game already and started their snowball already, because you could clearly see them setting up the game for a victory already.
Yeah, I think that it's so impactful in this bottom lane. I don't know that we need a replay of Redemption being the bad manners. Oh, that's so BM that we're replaying that. I mean, you know, if this is solo queue, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna take that kill. Like, if it's ranked, I'm like, get the kill. I don't care about AFKs, because it's always gonna happen to your team, so you may as well take it. In competitive, I'm like, oh, pause the game, please pause the game. That's really unfortunate that that's happened. I hope we can get an update on exactly how that's going to play out. Unfortunately, players are playing, of course, online, which gives us a little bit more of a tricky situation when we do run into issues like this. I do hope there's a resolution for Game Lords. I do want to focus a little bit more on the compositions, though, and maybe some of the changes that we've seen in the draft. So Set has kind of like thrown the draft into a little bit more chaos, where he's been let through a couple of times. But we've also seen this Corki presence quite a lot. Like, any thoughts from you on like how this Corki fits into the meta right now?
Yeah, the thing about Corki is he kind of has both of it. He has the mage part and he has the attack damage carry part, right? Like, he deals a lot of magic damage. He has the range and he has that package. And I feel like that package is the thing that gives him the advantage. That's what making these teams pick him, because these objectives are so important, right? Especially the first objective. You're basically always going to have an advantage in a fight when you have a Corki in your team with the package. So I feel like teams are leaning more on that compared to these early game presence champions or just, you know, late game champions. Corki really has it all.
Yeah, and like Corki package does ridiculous damage. It has a knockback. Also allows him to escape if he gets caught out for that entire duration. So I think it's one of those picks that I wasn't expecting so much right now, but he does fit that role of like, can be played mid lane, can be played bottom lane, and gives you flexibility. So it's not too surprising now that we've seen a couple of games to see how high priority he is. But like Corki, Garen, definitely not my read on the meta coming in, but I'm really glad to see that there are these different changes like week to week, month to month, because the patch cycle has been less this year than last year. So I feel like there have been less impactful changes, and teams are starting to go like, okay, what if we play Corki in the bottom lane? What if we do this? Because there's been no changes and he's quite a safe carry. So any other changes to the meta that you've seen that you're like, oh, maybe we weren't expecting that, or something that is out of the ordinary?
Well, for competitive, to be honest, not really. I'm really trying to think about some, but like if we look at a competitive perspective, not really. It's just the same, right? Like you play AP mages, you play Camille, Galio. Well, we're not seeing Renekton for some reason. I still have to figure out why, but Renekton is still definitely one of the strongest Baron laners in the game. And I actually want to talk about the Garen right now, because you know something is wrong if Garen gets picked nearly every game in a competitive game, right? Can you imagine how bad it's going to be in like lower elo? Because Garen is, you know, Patterson mentioned it as well against when he was talking to Stuart. Garen is an easy pick. He literally said, I can just very easily win my lane with Garen, and the champion is just so strong. So that's why we're seeing teams prioritizing a pick like that. But Aphelion was ready for it. And that's what I really love about this team. Because as you can see at the draft on the bottom, they picked Vayne and Camille. True damage is the way to counter Garen, right? Because Garen with his second ability blocks out damage, but of course he cannot block out true damage threats.
Yeah, exactly that. And like, The term skill expression exists for a reason, and that's meant to be like, oh, how flashy is a champion? How skilled do you have to be? Is it like, a Yasuo, which is slightly more technical, or is it just Garen, where you push one button and you run into somebody and then you hit them a couple of times and ult and then they die? So I totally agree that like any meta where Garen just gets to sit in lane and doesn't really get pressured too much and then just can tank a Nexus 10 times yesterday, like we saw for Patterson. I'm like, this feels a little bit too simple for Baron lane, if you ask me. But in this game, I mean, as much as Garen is a little bit broken, like I feel like Camille is perhaps a little too overtuned on mobility, at least right now. I think when she gets ahead, it's impossible to kill her in the side lane.
Yeah, Camille offers way too much. Like it's as simple as that. Camille offers way too much, but only to the skilled player. And of course, during these competitive games, nearly all of the players are skilled players. So a pick like Camille, especially because Gallia was also very strong, is super dangerous. And you have to revolve your draft against that. Like that's gonna be your main focus. If the enemy picks Camille, you have to counter that Camille. Because yes, as you said, if Camille is able to get to the late game, she's unbeatable. She is probably the strongest late game bruiser. She deals so much damage. She's so tanky. She just really provides it all. And then that ultimate that provides a cage around the enemy that you cannot escape for 4 seconds. Like Camille is just insanely nearly, like I would almost say broken right now in competitive.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that case. Like for when you look at especially bot lane carries, I think that always is the target for a champion like Camille, where you're like, okay, if I just trade my health for the life of the bot lane carry, we win the fight no matter what. And then you take away the mobility of a champion like Corki, who now can't Valkyrie out, like can't get clear of the Hextech ultimatum. So it looks like we are loading back onto the Rift. It is 1-1 after that unfortunate disconnect it looked like in the bottom. But Hester wants to go back aggressive as Redemption and Hester. We're going to have to see whether they can deal with that. Importantly, I mean, the kill went over to Vayne. And as unfortunate as it is the game that will continue to play out. And Vayne getting a kill this early on now gives her quite a good foundation to build into the rest of the game.
Yeah, so they resumed the existing game. And even though they won that Baron lane skirmish, I would definitely say this is quite a severe disadvantage for Game Lord because Vayne had a free lane. The first 2 minutes were free for Vayne. And I feel like this might be a sign for Aphelion, like, okay, this is our sign, right? This is what we're getting, and now we just have to win the game. And as you can see, little skirmishes between Camille and Garen. Garen is not going to be able to kill a Camille, because Camille counters Garen. And yeah, if Camille gets a free late game, then they just win the game, man.
Yeah, I feel like one way that the Game Lord basically need to force this game is with Zed, like picking up a bunch of kills on Vayne pre-stasis enchant. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Vayne get stasis after first item. I know that sounds really dumb, but like Vayne, all she needs is stasis, and that's a top lane kill from the Garen. Looks like just with the level advantage, picking up that kill immediately on Fantasy Note.
Yeah, definitely. And this all comes from that early game gank from Zefta. And even though, Garen cannot easily beat a Camille, he had a level advantage. He used his ultimate and killed the Camille. And the beauty is, he's very likely going to have his ultimate back for the Dragon Zone. As we look into the replay, he just dived there, ignite, procced his rune and Grasp of the Undying and easy ultimate. That's like the thing that Garen can do, or you can just very easily get a kill like that with Grasp of the Undying dealing a lot of damage every single time as well. And yeah, and the beauty is right now he's gonna have his ultimate. He's nearly gonna have his ultimate for an objective. They just gotta wait a little bit. And if we look at the items right now, Game Lord has many more items. Almost all of them have finished an item, and Aphelion is still stuck on the tier 2 items.
Yeah, I mean, we just watched Garen kill Camille through her shield as well. Like normally that shield does quite a lot of work. Not today for Fantasy Note, as Lonely Kid certainly is having his advantage in the top side. We've had that swap into middle lane from our duos. We said yesterday Vayne struggles in this situation because she can't output as much wave clear on the minion wave. You can see her getting pushed in here by Redemption, and it does allow Game Lord to transfer their pressure up towards this Rift Herald. Still 1700 health on it, and that's going to be the first kill down. Oh, not quite, as the heal does keep Lee Sin alive. It is stolen away by Corki, and that is how mid lane presence backfires against Aphelion. This is a huge team fight, as Camille is going to ult to try and skip the damage, but it's not enough as Hester locks her down for another kill. 5-1 overall in this game, plus the Rift Herald go to Game Lord.
Oh, what a disaster for Aphelion Esports. The idea was good. They tried to go for that Rift Herald, but as you mentioned, Vayne can just not clear out the mid lane fast enough. And what happened is Vayne was not available for the Rift Herald fight, and they weren't fast enough to get it. As you can see, Lee Sin was just desperately trying to secure the Rift Herald, but Corki package, and then you have these 4 people of Game Lord just taking you out of that Rift Herald. Meanwhile, Seth is just taking the dragon for free. Just Game Lord playing this game perfectly, as we talked about. Even though the draft may look okay for Aphelion, Game Lord is just much better. They're playing the macro game absolutely perfectly right now.
Yeah, one way that I've heard League of Legends coaches talk about this and around mid lane is about earning the push and earning river control. Is if you don't push mid lane out before you go to an objective, you have to be prepared to be punished. Because if the enemy can just walk up into the river and contest you, you lose the objective almost every time. And I didn't even notice that Zefta had taken Dragon at that point. The rest of the team doing such a good job of contesting that Rift Herald. And this is what we said about Game Lord. Aggressive. They're very quick to fight when they know they have the advantage. And just like that, despite the fact that Vayne got that kill to begin the game, Aphelion just haven't been able to have control of the map. And that means they don't have control of anything right now.
Yeah, they don't really have control of anything, and I just really love how Game Lord knew exactly what they were doing. Right? It can be very scary to leave your jungler alone. You know, they left Zefta alone on that dragon, but they knew.
Oh, okay, they knew. Sonic Wave didn't hit, and I thought Zefta was going to go for it. He might still go for it. Doesn't quite hit, and that is going to be the tower pressure though.
Yeah, like Game Lord is just running this game over. What are we supposed to say? They're completely running over Aphelion Esports. It's like they're on a whole different league, and I wanna say they're on a different league. Macro-wise, because they're constantly roaming around. As you can see, their playstyle is sticking together with 4 people and then having another player on the opposite side of the map. And they're doing this because you don't want to be running around as 5 people. The simple reason is because then you're just not efficient. Someone needs to be pushing out lanes, because otherwise you're going to lose golden experience, and they're trying to catch out the Galio.
Is going to go for 0-2. Will go in with the death mark. It's a lot of damage down. It's enough to force him back away from the lane itself. No towers, they'd already taken it. And as you said, like they're taking control of sections of the map and then setting up for dives. It didn't work out the way they wanted in mid lane, as they were kind of waiting for Baigay to get into middle lane and then you dive him from behind. But the timing was a little bit off. Lonely Kid this time is the one maybe caught, but he's a Garen, has a lot of health, is going to survive through. And despite the fact that that's a Camille and a Lee Sin, Garen just goes, okay, I'm going to stay at full health.
Yeah, he's a Garen indeed. That's the only thing you have to say. Garen can easily survive that, you know. Up until we reach the late game, Garen is pretty much going to be unkillable. You know, up until we get that true damage coming from Camille and Vayne, basically no one is going to be able to kill Garen. And basically, the way that Aphelion can deal with this playstyle of Game Lord is don't die. Because Game Lord is with 4 people, and you know, they're not playing it very efficiently. It's only efficient if they get kills. But if Aphelion can survive these 4-man ganks, if they can survive those towers and just be able to push out waves, they should get ahead of this in the long term. But of course, they are not up until this point.
Yeah, they haven't been able to yet. I was watching the minimap a little bit, and you can track how quickly Ruiz can see that Baigay on this Vayne is pushing out mid lane, and every single time the wave comes in, somebody is there to threaten Vayne. Somebody is there to push her back. And now Ruiz is back down on the bottom lane. He's like, oh, I'm going to push out this lane. We know Garen is pushing in the top lane. And the objectives are coming up as well. Rift Herald here will help them break middle lane. And you can see Game Lord already on this neutral objective. And with basically a 5,000, nearly 6,000 gold lead between these two teams, there's no real way to contest here. The package is up too. This might be the dragon going over Game Lord's way as well, because Ruiz is defending from arrogance on that Lee Sin around the dragon. They haven't even been able to start it.
Yeah, they're not like, you can see Ruiz is just walking around. He's like, nah, you're not gonna get the dragon. We're gonna get everything. And this is what I mean, right? The playstyle where they're playing with 4 people around one place of the map and then the other one around the other. Up until this moment of the game, they've continuously been doing it. 4 people taking the Rift Herald, Ruiz waiting at the dragon. And now they're basically securing a free dragon. If Lee Sin goes in, he should die.
Yeah, and you can see they wait until it's kind of half health, then they come down and cut off the rest of the team just to ensure it's not a 1 versus 1 coin flip. There's no real opportunity in the middle lane either to take out Corki, because he has that package, Extended Valkyrie. So even if Camille starts jumping at Corki, you have enough time to just back away.
Yeah, and like this game just feels like you like if you're playing in Aphelion's shoes right now, how do you play against this Game Lord roster right there? They're just so powerful, they're so strong. It doesn't feel like you can do anything against it. And now they're pressuring the mid lane as well with the Rift Herald. They may even be able to get 2 turrets right now, Stress.
Yeah, Arrogance is going to go in, but he's going to get caught and immediately taken down. Was not prepared to defend against the 4 members of Game Lord that are there. And it's the pace of the game that is smothering. That's a double pull in as they're going to get the set damage down. First kill goes over to Ruiz onto the Nami, and Vayne trying to open up as much damage as she can with those silver bolts, but it is not enough. And Vaige has to run back away. Still only the 1 kill on the game for Aphelion. 2 members die as 2 turrets fall as well.
Yeah, well, what I always like to say is the game is never over when you have a Vayne in your team, but in this situation, the game does look over. And if you look at this replay, beautiful flash from Zafta, pulling in these enemies and stunning them. And yeah, they're engaging in Alistar with the ultimate, tanking up the turret. They're all doing their job, basically. Every single member of Game Lord is doing their job. Garen didn't even have to do his job because he was that one player that was not there, right? We talked about it earlier. They're playing 4-1. 4 people somewhere and then 1 somewhere else. Garen was somewhere else. He was joining the fight in case they needed them. And we have an invade here.
For Arrogance, that feels so bad. You're like, all right, I'm gonna get a small win. I'll get the blue buff, and then Lonely Kid blocks the Sonic Wave and starts running at you, and you're like, all right, I guess I don't even get the blue buff. Ruiz is gonna try in 2 versus 3 with Hester on this bottom lane. It's the pace of this game. Like, Game Lord are bouncing from objective too quickly for Aphelion to actually get any kind of a grip on the game at all. And they, as you said, they need to buy time for Vayne, but there's not enough time in this game when they're nearly 12,000 gold down already, 11 minutes into the game. This is real smashing, and it's only really a matter of time before that Baron comes up and they're forced into a fight. It's just a question of how many towers they lose before that, so that game will get even more items.
Yeah, like I don't really think you can snowball a game more than what has happened right now. It has been a 1k gold lead per minute. You can see Arrogance is not even bothering going in. Even though he is playing the Lee Sin, he has already reached that late game stage where Lee Sin is, not useless, but you cannot just go in anymore. And if you've reached that stage at 11 minutes already, the game is not going well when you're playing Lee Sin.
Yeah, you're a kick bot at this point of the game, and there are not many targets that you can actually find and keep a hold of. Baron's going to be up in 45 seconds. The package is up as well. The timing on this could not be better for Game Lord. They can grab that package as soon as they want it, go for the Baron, look for a play off this, and really look to ramp up the game. Because we've already said there's not really a whole lot of wave clear on the side of Aphelion, so Baron minions are a death sentence.
Yeah, unless Aphelion is able to get a pick, which doesn't really look like they can with that composition, because they have the Vayne, right, the sustained damage. But unless they can get a pick, a free kill on the enemy, I don't really see a way of them winning a team fight right there. Like, really no way, especially if Game Lord stays together for the Baron and we have a fight.
It's a pick on the side of Game Lord because Ruiz has gone in with the death mark. There's enough damage down to force the stasis out from Lee Sin as Arrogance will connect with Sonic Wave, but this is still 4 versus 4. And Game Lord have such a significant advantage that they forced Lee Sin back. They may very well look for a pick in the topside jungle and then rotate over towards the Baron because they know how healthy they are. Garen is going to run down 0-2 in that top lane and put the damage down there as well. Galio now half health. There's no way of Aphelion to actually have full health bars coming into this fight. And there we go. Here is the engage out from Hester. Catches 2 on this Alistair. He's the one caught in the Hextech ultimatum, but that's the support. He's tanky with all of that damage reduction running. Set tanks up so much for Zephyr. He survived for so long. And the rest of Game Lord are trying to hold on. Galio is going to proto belt out. Aphelion have at least managed to stabilize. Look at the damage coming out from Lonely Kid. No kills going on the favor. I wonder whether Aphelion should just back out of this and cut their losses.
Oh, that was a close fight, Stress. That was a close fight. And I like Redemption nearly got punished super hard for not even bothering to get his package. They engaged. They thought that it would be a free fight, but they nearly lost the fight right there. You saw it was super close. They even lost Zefta in the process. Aphelion is getting ahead in this game. I mean, of course, if Corki had a package, if Redemption had actually gone back and taken the package, there would have been no way that Aphelion would have won the fight. And they're trying to rush the dragon right there. This is a good call from Aphelion. Trying to get this dragon. Yeah.
It is a good call because they have a smite. Set just sold his boots from Stoneplate to get teleport, and here comes the package attempt into the backline. If they can get Mei and potentially Vaige, this is a very easy fight for Game Lord to take down. They're going to get the dragon. They will rotate over towards the Baron, so Game Lord will stabilize after a very scrappy fight. But, that was a little bit of the presence that Aphelion could have had, but they are so far behind.
Yeah, Game Lord was way too fast. I wasn't even able to finish my sentence. The reason that it was a good call, because it was one of those desperate plays that you kind of have to make. They were doing it without vision, and you kind of have to go for it. If they don't, then how are they going to win this game? Because right now, we see the Baron being taken, and it's just going to be a desperate play, Stress.
It's Super Bowl night, so this would have to be one Hail Mary to pick up this Baron for Arrogance, but it's going to be the fight as Baige is going to get dropped almost instantly to start this fight off as Ruiz picks up that kill. The Hail Mary just does not connect. This is no way to convert it for Aphelion, and a Game Lord may not even need the Baron to close this game.
Yeah, there it is. You know, it was a nice try by Aphelion. They did a good job in that team fight. They tried to get the Dragon to get that damage, but unfortunately they weren't able to. And yeah, if that's the case, you're never going to win a team fight against Game Lord when they have a package. Up until now, you're just never going to win it. And they're just going to close out the series right now. Only Nami is there to defend. We have a 15-minute game. Quite expected. You know, even though Aphelion had a pretty decent draft, Game Lord is just way superior over them.
Yeah, Game Lord taking game 1 against Aphelion, and we said they were aggressive. We said that the macro play was what we were expecting to take Game Lord through this. Yeah, and it's what happens in game. Like that was a really well played out game from Game Lord. I was a little bit worried with the disconnect. I thought perhaps Game Lord might very well not even be in the game. Luckily, we're able to reconnect, get things working again, and get their way back in. But like, this is why we've been talking about Game Lord for the last like 2 broadcasts, because they are so fun to watch when they're making aggressive plays like this.
Yeah, they're so fun to watch indeed. And you know, here we can see some of their team fights. They were just completely dominated Aphelion, and that's mainly because they had 4 people up against 3 people of the Aphelion Esports roster. Just their rotation has been incredibly good. But I want to say one weakness about it though. If this is their only way of playing a game, you can counter it very well, right? So I'm really hoping to see some different types of rotations as well. I don't expect them to do that against Aphelion because of course they don't want to reveal their tactics yet. So in the next game, they may do the same thing just because they feel like they can just win easily anyways. But yeah, in the next series, it's going to be very exciting to see what they have in petto for these teams.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the interesting thing for me is I completely agree with you. I want to see what else they have. The funny thing is, you could have flipped these drafts and given Game Lord the Camille Lee Sin, and I'd be like, yes, that's Game Lord. That's how they play. It like makes total sense. So I'm like, I think they just have such a strong basis on like team fighting. And in the Purge tournament, we saw Formulation playing up against Game Lord, who are one of the other teams in this open bracket. And Formulation looked really good against teams like WREC and a few others that we were expecting to do well. But then Game Lord just smashed them like with this aggressive play style in the finals. It just wasn't even close. And it's really hard to argue with the way that they smother their opponents. Like, you see them take one fight, move into the jungle, get a pick, get another tower, get 2 more towers, like a Rift Herald, the Dragon. Like, every single time an objective is available to take, Game Lord seem to be there going for it.
Yeah, they nearly seem to be like a perfect machine playing the game, you know, doing those rotations perfectly, knowing what's coming, because they're just always able to counter whatever is coming. And in this game, they did it as well. You know, when you get ahead 1,000 gold per minute, you know you're playing the game correctly. And that's exactly what Game Lord was doing up against a strong team like Aphelion, because it's not that Aphelion is bad, it's just that Game Lord is so incredibly good.
Yeah, as you said, like 1k gold lead accruing per minute is that's kind of ludicrous. So hard to beat. Like, how are you going to do it? I mean, Aphelion, we had this fight where Game Lord did overextend a little, and Redemption was punished for not having the package, but that was as close as Aphelion got to really turning this game in their favor at all. So yeah, if perhaps they can steady their early game a little bit more, which is a tough ask against Game, maybe we can see Aphelion bounce back into it. But I actually think on the top side of the map, Aphelion's draft was really good. Other than Garen. Garen, I think, is becoming a problem, and the set does also look pretty strong as well. So yeah, I mean, we're starting to see set. Hells, you've got a set game to cast. So what are your first impressions of set jungle from casting?
Well, yeah, Zefta, like even winning like that as a set jungle up against the Lee Sin, like what an incredible player. We didn't see too many crazy things from him just because it was a Giga Stomp. So it didn't quite satisfy my needs to watch a set, as you can see, right? He played more of a tanky role in his team. He only did 7.6k damage. He kind of got carried by his teammates. So this was not quite the satisfactory game that I wanted to see from set. Of course, it's fine, but yeah, here we can see just a clean advantage. Very, very clean. You know, just going up and up and up and up. No bumps, no anything. Just a very, very easy win for Game Lord.
It's the Zefta effect on these champions, though. It's like the team getting ahead. He either like has the impact and goes like 10-0, or like the team just do really well, and he's like, all right, I'm along for the ride. Just carry me, team. I'll just get the objectives. Don't worry, I'll smite it down. We're gonna take a look at the play of the game from this series. I mean, from game one, I mean, there were quite a few plays that could be the play of the game. As long as it's not the disconnect kill, that would be pretty bad mannered.
Yeah, definitely. And as you go through the play of the game, it's the play where Corki stole the Rift Herald, where they did this rotation, you know, the 4-man rotation, and they just completely out-rotated Aphelion Gaming right here. Secures both objectives, won the fight, and just literally took every single thing that they could have taken in the map right there. Beautiful play by GameBird.
Yeah, beautiful play. I'm going to be really pedantic and say that, like, that play of the game could also include the really boring phase of Corki pushing at mid lane first. Just like farming the minions and leaving Vayne to stand there. Anyway,
that was the setup.
Exactly, that's what I mean. You couldn't have that play without it. But Game will take a very convincing game number 1 of this series against Aphelion. Later on, we have Team Queso taking the Rift against Team Supremacy. That's going to be a great series too. But we have game 2 coming when we come back in just a few minutes.
Breathe fire, your eyes so bright, the dark will guide us through the night. Bye, bye, my love, I'll shine for you in the dark. My tribe of stars. And I breathe fire. Your eyes so bright, the dark will guide us through the night. Bye bye, my love, I'll shine for you in the dark with my tribe of stars. My tribe of stars. My tribe of stars. My tribe of stars. My tribe of stars.
Welcome to the official Riot Games Squad Rift EMEA Championship.
Everybody round, everybody round here, know we getting hype. Everybody round, everybody round, everybody round, everybody round, everybody round.
welcome back, everybody, to day 2 of the Wild Rift EMEA Championships. We just saw Game Lord, one of our favorites, kind of stomp Aphelion in game number 1. There's not really any way of sugarcoating it. I would love to sugarcoat it a bit more, but we're going to have to see it a bit more from Aphelion in game 2. I thought they had a good draft. Hells, I know we talked a lot about the Camille, the Galio synergy, the Lee Sin. Looked really strong, but this set, this Garen is coming out of the woodwork and being ultra strong in comparison.
Yeah, it's the players, man. Like, Game Lord, Aphelion didn't even have a chance. Like, let's be honest here, Aphelion didn't even have a chance. Game Lord just absolutely steamrolled them. And they were probably not even playing seriously. Because as we said, that like their rotations were incredibly basic. It just really felt like they're just getting through this game and trying to not reveal their tactics. I really hope that's the case. Because, yeah, with Game Lord just on a whole nother level stress.
I love that. I mean, they've revealed, though, that you need to ban Garen and you need to ban Set against them. Let's see what Stuart can reveal about Game 2 coming up and see what his thoughts are as we head towards our second game.
Thank you very much, Stress. Yeah, I'm just looking at the red side bans for the first game as well, going into the second game with Aphelion. Aphelion was focusing bans on Heste. I think there was 3 bans in total, 2 in the first rotation, but they left champions open like the Set, like the Garen, and even comfort picks like Reese and Redemption got Zed and Corki. So I want to see some different bans from Aphelion going into game number 2, maybe banning out champions like the Set, etc., you know, if they are on the red side for game number 2. And going into the game itself, it's all about mid lane priority. Again, Game Lord so good with that mid lane priority, but the problem with Aphelion, they didn't really have any mages or anyone that could really clear that mid lane, and that really showed in the play of the game of the previous game. Corki being able to push up mid lane, Vayne was stuck in mid lane, and Game Lord would just being able to rotate around the map very easily. And my last point, a little bit of a funny one, don't BM Game Lords. Don't try and kill their AFK players. They will come and they will bite back even stronger. And as you can tell from the previous game, they only got 1 kill technically from the previous game. We won't count the kill on Redemption. But yeah, don't kill Redemption because he'll come back and he will haunt you for the rest of the series. But yeah, that's my key points for going into game number 2. Back to Stress and Hell, to get us into game number 2.
I love that, don't BM. I mean, in solo queue, I'd take those kills. Oh, one thing I want to do before we get into the draft is, for Wild Rift, I just want to make sure that we're defining some terms. And for viewers, perhaps, that don't watch League of Legends, I think it's really important to explain what priority is. So priority is essentially pushing a lane out and then using your minions to create vision. Because everywhere they track, you get vision. So you push a lane in mid, that means you're getting mid priority. When your minions are pushing further up the lane, it opens up the enemy part of the rift so much more. So getting priority before you move to another objective is what teams do as a basic level. I just want to make sure everybody kind of gets some of these terms. I think it's really important for viewers as we use these words to make sure that they understand. We're heading into picks and pans. We can stop talking about macro. We can talk about all the exciting things to begin the game. Aphelion on the blue side this time, Game Lord, they could just leave everything open and say, yeah, let's take it again.
Yeah, they can do that, of course, but they're not gonna do that. I feel like they're just gonna ban some picks that they may potentially be afraid of, right? Like some broken picks, like maybe the Garen, maybe the... I honestly, I don't know. They can probably deal with everything. That's the funny thing about Game Lord, because they're so good. But yeah, they ban out the Jace, right? That's one of those champions where if you give a really good player Jace, he's gonna go 6-0 in the Baron lane in the first 5 minutes. And of course, it's gonna be annoying to deal with.
Yeah, going to be really annoying to deal with. Galio ban, because that's going to be one of those picks that Game Lords could very well take on that first rotation. Rakan banned as well. Now, there's a lot of focus going on to Heste. A lot of respect for Heste, but I'll be honest, there are so many engaged supports, I don't think you can ban them all out. This is just like take away the best ones and try and leave him on something like an Alistair. But even then, we saw the last game, Heste was great.
Yeah, and see, the problem with Game Lord is that they can play so many different picks. They're so flexible. Like, I cannot tell you what they would pick because they have so many different picks. You know, all of their players can play nearly everything, and that's what makes them so incredibly powerful, and you just cannot counter them in the draft. And again, we can see the Rakan and the Thresh bans. They don't want to be dealing with Heste on those picks, and Game Lord is really just banning some of the picks that may be scary, right? They're banning out the Fiora to pick the Garen. You know, Fiora is one of those picks that can destroy Garen in the lane. So very very likely are we going to see some sort of a Garen pick in the Baron lane from Game Lord. And yeah, they banned out the set as well. Again, they just don't want to deal with it. They're just banning out some of the picks they don't want to deal with. Camille first pick, again, we see a Camille first pick coming through from Aphelion. So they still believe in the Camille. Yeah.
Zefter's Lee comes through. And now there's a few bot lane champions open. Morgana's up, Varus is up, Ziggs is up, which we haven't seen Ziggs so much. I think Ziggs has kind of dropped off in priority. I'm looking at other picks. Okay, that Corki, of course. I'm over here still talking from my meta before and that Corki flexibility on that side.
Yeah, you can play Corki in the mid lane, you can play him in the Dragon lane. Corki, we talked about him earlier, he's so powerful. But Morgana was left open actually, and I didn't even think about that. But Morgana we've seen how strong Morgana can be in the right hands. Diana open as well, which is also an incredibly powerful pick that has been banned out the majority of times. But here we can see again, Game Lord not banning out those champions, and it feels like they have counters for it because they instantly pick the Olaf. Olaf can run through the Diana ult, Olaf can run through the Morgana route, Olaf can run through her ultimate, right? So picking Olaf right here from Game Lord.
That's top lane Olaf. Because Lee Sin's already here. Like, that's not a jungle Olaf. At least I would assume so. I know some people try and play lane Lee Sin, but like Zefter's Lee is so good. I don't know why you would opt not to do that. So now we look at bans. Like, so Kha'Zix is banned, another early game jungler that's going to be taken off the board. I guess they're going to continue this support ban loop from Aphelion because you've already started. So just keep banning him. Like this, technically, because Galio can be a support, every single ban for Aphelion has gone towards Hester in some way.
Yeah, they've banned 4 supports, really. They've banned Galio, Rakan, Thresh, and come on, finish it up with one last support pick, just to make it fun.
Ban Alistar, like the last one, just every single thing going to Hester.
Oh yeah, and as we're waiting for the ban that's gonna come through from Aphelion, I don't think they'll do that, but it would be funny if they did. Yeah, Alistar, they cannot pick it because Olaf destroys Alistar with the damage, and they do. Yes, they do. They banned Lulu away as well.
You have to, when you see an Olaf, you have to ban Lulu, right? This combination is too strong. It's what Yuumi will be next week or the week after, whenever Yuumi's available.
Yeah, Olaf Lulu is one of the strongest combinations in the game, right? Where Lulu is able to constantly buff the Olaf. Olaf uses his ultimate, becomes unstoppable, and runs right through whatever you have to offer. And we finally see a Renekton pick coming through as well. So again, like Aphelion's draft is looking very strong, but we know how good Game Lord is. Is the same thing gonna happen in the next game?
The thing is, Aphelion have... Oh, okay, so Morgana's support is what's coming out. I was gonna say, Aphelion have banned out so many supports that if they weren't going for Morgana, Mei is in trouble. Garen okay, we're going full melee range. Full melee champions for Game Lords. That's a Garen, that's an Olaf, and a Lee Sin on the top side. So if you fight them early game, they will do damage because Camille needs a little bit of time. Diana does need a little bit of time to get some damage. Renekton, however, for Aphelion is the one that I need to watch out for in the early game on their side.
Yeah, and I'm sure Zefta is going to be constantly ganking that Renekton. I'm sure, you know, they're going to be baiting that Renekton in the Baron lane right there with Lonely Kid, showing the Renekton, hey, look, there's a free kill, and then boom, you have the Lee Sin coming through, getting that kill, and then it's already going to be a free lane for the Garen. I can already predict that that's going to happen in this game, so it's going to be interesting to see how Aphelion is going to be able to play around that. You know, how is their vision game going to be, especially in the early game, to see Zefta coming on that Lee Sin, because he is obviously going to be ganking lanes. That's how Lee Sin works.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is Camille jungle then from here.
Yeah.
In the way that we have the setup. And then, honestly, for Aphelion, for my taste, I feel like they lost so quickly in the last game that opting for a late game carry like Kai'Sa is probably going to mean that they're just not going to get into the game if it's a very similar thing. Varus was available this game. I wonder whether that would have been one way of pivoting here, but that's just my, again, drafting from a previous patch perspective. I'm excited to see, because these are very different compositions to what we've seen, especially on the Aphelion side. One of the first times we're going to see Diana picked up, haven't seen a whole lot of Camille as well, and Renekton. So a lot of dive buddy potential on this composition. If they get it to work, use that Diana ultimate to blow people up. That might very well be a team fight that can work for them. But last game, they fell so far behind so quickly that if Game Lord do that again, they're going to run away with this game, quite literally.
Yeah, and the thing is, they have a lot of these big ultimates, but the Olaf-Nami combination, how are you going to kill that Olaf? These insane ultimates of those champions are not going to do anything against Olaf, and I feel like that is the power of Game Lord in this draft right now, the Olaf. And if they can manage to get him ahead, then it's Ruiz on Olaf in mid lane. Hello.
Wow. Okay, we're going to see a very different side of Ruiz. We're loading into the Rift. Already we've seen a trade go from level 1. Both flashes have been burned by 0-2 and Ruiz. And that's a Diana top. Okay, haven't seen a whole lot of that since she was released. A little bit initially, and then not a whole lot after that. So some real upside down lanes from what we would normally expect in this situation. I don't know that I have ever seen a Diana Garen matchup in competitive, at least from my experience. So that's a new one for me.
Wow, it's mid Olaf. I'm still not over the mid lane Olaf. They're playing mid lane Olaf. That's so interesting to see. I've never really seen it in a competitive game. As you can see, the Lee Sin is coming in, right? He's looking for those ganks. Not able to get it because 0-2 is playing it very passively, which he should against the Lee Sin. Because yeah, that's the strong early game champ.
And as a top lane matchup, I'll hold this thought because we do have Camille. As a top lane matchup, I wouldn't want to favor Olaf into Renekton early game. You don't have enough power to actually out-trade the Renekton in my mind. That's going to be an engage going into Diana, as I don't know that they can get this dive to work off quite yet, as Renekton is roaming up as well. They're going to go for it. You know it's Zephyr. I think they'll get it just in time, as Diana's going to try and move back around. Nice flash to try and avoid it. Tower aggro is going down, as that is the first blood. It was almost turned back around by Fantasy Note, but first blood goes over to Game Lords.
Oh, if he was able to only waste one more second, 0-2 would have made it, and I'm pretty sure they would have turned that fight, because it was like Lee Sin got to a very low amount of HP after diving that, and 0-2 was just a tad bit too late right there, which is very unfortunate for Aphelion Esports. Yet again, Game Lords just rotating more effectively.
Oh, nice bubble. That's just going to punish the arrogance of arrogance. Invading on bot side when you've already lost top side is the dangerous play and gets punished for it.
Yeah, arrogance just on the wrong side of the map. Lee Sin was already coming as well. You know, they were ready for it. Like, Game Lords just know their thing. And as you can see right there, you know, he tried to waste a lot of time. Fantasy, you know, tried to do his best to use his barrier, use the flash, but it was just not enough. The ignites from Garen finishing him off, and of course, Lee Sin with the red buff as well. Just dealing way too much damage for Fantasy Note to deal with right there.
Yeah, it's the difference between 0-2 being in range to get that second dash and like land on the Lee Sin to get the kill, and not quite being there. Really, really unfortunate for Aphelion. But again, Game Lord, we know they're going to be aggressive. Ruiz has pushed mid lane out and is going to roam as well. The lane's neutralized, but following him are Arrogance and 0-2 from that middle lane. So Ruiz may be forced to burn that Ragnarok. It won't actually break him out of the Hextech ultimatum though, so he has to just run around for a little while, tries to flash himself away from this exchange. And Ruiz nearly manages to trade one. Lonely Kid does get it though, and it buys enough time for Zephyr to get up into his top lane. Kick goes back, doesn't put 0-2 under the tower. Lonely Kid is just buying time for the spin to come back up. Zephyr, can he safeguard? Wait, they both dodge. They both dodge the hook shot, and Arrogance ends up in such a low position. Everybody flashing low. Game Lord are going to back away with that one kill.
No way Game Lord got away with that. No way. 0-2 dealing so much damage on the Recton, getting both of them to 1 HP, but they're just not quite able to finish them. Camille missed the hook shot, unfortunately, under the turret, leaving Lonely Kid and Zephyr on 1 HP. What an unfortunate event right there for Aphelion. That was their moment, because they did out-rotate Game Lord. They did get that kill on the Garen. They did get them to a low amount of HP, but they just weren't able to finish them up, which is super unfortunate for Aphelion Esports right now.
Yeah, uncharacteristic though from Zephyr being late on the recall from that exchange. He took red buff because he wants, obviously, the buff, and then now is like, okay, well, I'm not in position for the neutral objectives. Aphelion don't know this though, so they can't punish. If perhaps they'd have got onto an objective immediately as they spawned, there was an opportunity to take it before the smite was available, but these are the things that so early on, you can't get the vision control to know that, and Game Lord get away with it a little bit. It's not Zephyr's fault, nothing like that. It's not actually a misplay. It's just a window of opportunity that Aphelion couldn't have known they had.
Yeah, and Aphelion is like desperately trying to get something right there. And again, we see the same thing happening right now. Game Lord is like, okay, we got this dragon anyways, and we're not gonna let them do the Rift Herald. And there is gonna be a fight happening right here, Stress.
Yeah, there's 3 members of Game Lord here with the tidal wave. Nami's going to try and push them back as Lonely Kid spinning on top of the Morgana manages to get the kill down, nearly stolen away by the Corki for a second game in a row. And despite the fact that Aphelion have taken the Rift Herald, that's 3 quick kills going over to Game Lord. And again, similar situation, it nearly backfired for Aphelion.
Yeah, and this is what I mean with the Corki pick. Game Lord is right now is really showing you how to play Corki, because they are utilizing that package, and they're utilizing that package to really get everything on the map, right? They were going for the dragon, they saw that Aphelion is not going for it, and we have a fight.
Yeah, Baigay's like, I'm gonna try and run away from this, but that's an Olaf. You flashed? Okay, if that connected, I think Baigay dies there, but was able to flash away from the axe and get himself safe.
Yeah, and again, as we look into the replay, we see, right, they get the Dragon and they were able to back up the team. And even though they lost the Rift Herald, the Corki package just brought way too much value to this fight, allowing them to get 3 more kills as well. So instead of shaking hands, taking the Dragon and just walking away, they didn't shake hands. They took the Dragon, they engaged on the Rift Herald, and even though they didn't steal the Rift Herald, they were able to get 3 more kills, which gets them 5,000 gold ahead. 6 minutes into the game already. Yet again, Game Lord's just running over Aphelion Esports.
I saw that Corki missile go towards the Rift Herald, and I was like, not again. Surely not again is Corki going to steal it. This has been a really big pick for Redemption, and you're right. They're matching that 1,000 gold advantage. We didn't even see it in the bottom lane. That's a 2 versus 1 kill easily down onto Bygate. Remember, Bygate just used his flash, just used the ultimate. Kai'Sa now doesn't have mobility and seem to have stuck around in the lane, easily picked off by Game Lords, and they might look for another dive here as Ruiz is here with Zefta. It's only Lonely Kid that is not in this exchange, so it's a 4 versus 3. They'll push the tower down, and if Aphelion step anywhere close to it, they would get attacked, but Game Lord will take the objective and back away.
Yeah, Aphelion Esports is just completely being overwhelmed by Game Lords right there. You can see them just wandering around in the bot lane. They're like, okay, what do we do? Do we go? Do we not go? We can't really do anything. And that's the Game Lord effect right now. It's not only the good plays, and here we can just see them taking that free kill on the Kai'Sa right there. Kai'Sa had no ultimate, no flash. It was just a free kill on bag.
Oh, a tidal wave has already come out as they're trying to lock down that Camille. It's not quite enough to pick up the fight here as Redemption's going to try and get it. Captain Rain. Oh, Bygate just disintegrates. There's the bubble lands. Hester, you've banned out all of his engaged supports, and he's like, what, you didn't think Nami was an engaged support?
Yeah, wow. 8,000 gold ahead in 7 minutes, man. This is looking even worse than the first game, and it looked fine in the early game because Aphelion had that 1 good rotation, but again, unfortunately, they weren't able to get those 2 kills that were at 1 HP, and right now, Game Lord just taking turret after turret, objective after objective, just really making Aphelion play behind closed doors. They cannot do anything. They have nothing. They're just walking around desperately trying to get some farm. As you can see, they're trying to gather out some minions from the lanes. Camille's trying to get some of her jungle, but there's really nothing left for them to take in this map right now.
Yeah, and the timing is so good for Game Lord, because I was looking at neutral objectives. They weren't due up as that passage of play finished on the top tower, and I was like, okay, well, Aphelion, you just need to like not die in the next 40 seconds and just get vision control and try and set up for the next thing, because there's no towers to take. But then immediately as they start recalling, the 1 minute timer starts on the Dragon, starts on the Rift Herald, and that means Game Lord are going to be in position with the package. Redemption can recall anytime that he wants and pick that up. Rift Herald used in the bottom lane, I think it was about to expire for arrogance, so needs to just throw that down. But I mean, Ruiz doesn't care about that. Are they actually just going to sack both neutral objectives and try and take a fight? Hester might be in a little bit of trouble, will be forced to back away, but Ruiz is there too.
Yeah, and I just really love how Game Lord is just constantly playing perfectly around these objectives. Yet again, with the package, they're probably not gonna 50-50 this Dragon. What they're probably gonna do is look for a fight. They're not gonna 50-50 anything, and there is a fight.
Yeah, I mean, Aphelion have just sacrificed the Dragon. I mean, Garen is going to just run down 0-2 in the top lane, as Lonely Kid is going to say, no, that's my honey fruit. I'm going to take that. Dragon's gone down. Now Game Lord repositioned over to the Rift Herald, and Aphelion haven't even been able to find an advantageous fight because on the side lane, Garen's still over half health. Here comes the package over with the tidal wave, as well as Mei will get taken at least into the bubble for a moment before Morgana was able to get the ult off, and Game Lord have steadied themselves. They don't have Zefta here, so this is a 4 versus 5, and Game Lord still won enough to turn around to go and get the Rift Herald.
Yeah, it's a 4 versus 5, and Aphelion was also actually able to hit some very great abilities, right? Where Fantasy Note engaged with the beautiful Diana ultimate, but it was not enough. It's not enough. You know, when you're 8,000 gold, behind in 10 minutes into the game, you cannot very easily win fights like that, especially if there's 4 members of Game Lord right there, and Olaf is going
Ruiz
again.
is just gonna run in and try and murder Bygate at this. Like, the Rift Herald's gone down. Garen's gonna push the bot lane. Like, Aphelion can't find any engage to even start setting themselves up. Like, they're trying. 0-2 loses half of his health and has to back away. Rift Herald thrown down in the middle lane now just to get this push going. It should break through this first tower with just a little bit more damage, and Game Lord are just taking full control of the second game in the row in exactly the same way that they did the first.
Yeah, and you can see they're already pushing the inhibitor turret 10 minutes into the game. They have no mercy. They're like, hey, we're gonna finish off this game.
You can't do this, arrogance. Like, you cannot step up like this, even with the tower there. Ooh, Game Lord very nearly punish.
A very nearly punish. You can see this. Aphelion cannot
Tower's
do
gonna
anything.
go. Tidal wave runs through. Tower's already down. Doesn't even help Aphelion. They cannot stay alive. Diana ultimate will connect onto 4 members, but even the damage is not quite there. They get 1 kill onto Ruiz, and it's going to be for the entire game in favor of Gamelord, as they are quite low health. They can't get the inhibitor, but in goes Zepter. This Lee Sin we've talked about as Lonely Kid is not lonely anymore. He's found himself a friend, but it's under the tower, and down he drops. Overextension from Lonely Kid. Gamelord do still have to be careful.
Yeah, and Heste is in a very bad position right there. You know, he cannot escape. Unfortunately, that's going to be his death. It is not, though. Oh, no way.
He even flashes past Arrogance. Like, Arrogance doesn't have the ultimate, so they can't keep chasing. This might be a little bit of an overstay by Gamelord. Group acrobatics with 3 people going over the wall off the blast cone, and they're getting chased down, but I think Gamelord can reset here.
There's no way Gamelord just got out of that position without a single death. Nami was caught in the Nexus, but they were able to just escape very easily. And if we look at this replay, it's not Aphelion that's engaging, it's Gamelord that's engaging. They use the Nami ultimate and they just go. They go super deep, as you can see. Olaf even sacrificing himself to get that kill, and then Garen is like, yeah, sure. You know, I'm Lonely Kid. I don't want to be as lonely. I'm gonna be hugging the Kai'Sa right there. Even though it costs my life, I'm still gonna go for it. And I just love this aggression. Even though it didn't work, because they didn't quite calculate the fact that Kai'Sa still had her ultimate. Very well played by Bagay, by the way. Yeah, they still went for it.
Yeah, they did. Baron due up in just over 40 seconds. The package is up, but Gamelord are going to take the fight without it. Lonely Kid moves his way back into the parallel. The Hextech ultimatum, I should say. It doesn't even matter that he gets locked out for a moment, as Gamelord are just going to run rampant through this one, trying to find another kill, as Lonely Kid once again can't quite connect with Baige for the conversion on that takedown, and Gamelord haven't been able to finish it. Zepter's gonna go in. He's like, I'll just take this into my own hands, as Redemption picks up another one. Zepter did fall, so that makes the neutral objectives a little bit trickier, as Redemption forced to stasis. The rest of his team is locked away. Valkyrie tries to get him out to safety, but it's not quite enough, as Ruiz is just randomly taking an inhibitor in the middle lane, and it's got scrappy from Gamelord, but they're still crushing these objectives despite the fact that they're losing a few members.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what the funny thing is? Gamelord is not even playing these fights very well. As we said, they didn't even take the package. They're diving way too deep. They're just kind of playing around in this game, right? And that might be a scary thing to do, because, like, as you can see right here, you know, they didn't play the team fight as well as they should have. The Garen was diving way too deep with no real backup, as you can see right here. And yeah, sure, they still win the fight, but yeah, here you can see Garen being way too overextended. But again, Aphelion was still unable to win this fight, and Diana engaging with a beautiful ultimate, but yet again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just Gamelord is so far ahead that they just don't really... There's no way for them to lose this team fight in this current situation right now.
Yeah, that choke, any choke like that is where Diana wants to fight you. And I mean, Ruiz took the inhibitor at the same time. Like, that tells you how split focus they were. They were still able to come out even on kills and yet take 2 towers, one of them being an inhibitor. Now Arrogance is going to get caught by Zepter with the Sonic Wave. Should just be an easy tidal wave for Lonely Kid to come in through the backside.
Damn.
This one was clean. That's what Gamelord needed to do. They already have super minions in the middle lane, and that's the game.
Yeah, that one was clean. We saw a 4-man ultimate coming through from Heste. And Heste is like, you can ban 5 champions from me, but I'm still gonna destroy you. He just picks the Nami, and oh, sorry, that's my doorbell. It's very loud.
That's Gamelord. They actually have had enough time to get out of the game and deliver a 2-0 victory over Aphelion. Gamelord looking very, very strong. We did expect it. I think that might even have been a little bit quicker than I was expecting on the game. Very scrappy in the end of the second game. I feel like Gamelord was just like, well, we've won whatever we do, and just closed it out.
Yeah, Gamelord was it seemed like Gamelord was kind of trolling around at the end of the game, because as we said, that was not the normal way of them doing things. They were just kind of diving super deep, trying to make those fun plays, and they were really not afraid to lose that game right there. And I just really want to put the highlight on Heste, because it's so funny that they banned away 5 champions against him, but he was just providing so much value on that Nami last game.
And I feel like his playstyle, even on Nami, you expect Nami to be like this kind of defensive. Okay, if you engage into me, then I can bubble and tidal wave. But Heste's like, no, Nami's an engaged support. I'm going to run up. I'm going to bubble, act actively. I'm going to tidal wave actively and start these fights with these objectives. I don't care about disengage. I'm just going to engage. Nami, totally worthwhile as an engaged champion. So yeah, I mean, Hester's one of the players I think that we're going to start talking a lot more about. Same with Ryu from yesterday's series, where I feel like there's a big disparity in supports and playstyle. Is like the roaming active supports set that team up so effectively. And I think Hester is one of the best that I've seen so far in Europe.
Yeah, and we saw Ryu do it as well yesterday, and proved incredibly worthy because he was able to provide so much value for his team. Heste as well, they're just so afraid of his roaming support that they're just banning out all of them that are really good at doing it. And this player right here that we're seeing, this is the disastrous play. Arrogance wasn't quite able to pick up a kill right there, and if he was able to pick up that kill, maybe that would have been a way for them to get into this game, but I really don't think they would have, because you know, all the plays that we're seeing is just a Game Lord stomp fight.
Yeah, I was having deja vu on this fight where the Corki nearly stole the Rift Herald again. I mean, Arrogance looked a little... Arrogance and Aphelion looked better in this game. I certainly wouldn't write them off yet, but like... They're going up against one of the toughest teams, in my opinion, in the bracket. So I think when Aphelion now go down to the lower bracket, we're going to see... I think they'll be playing the loser of Queso and Team Supremacy. So like, if they end up against Queso, you just drew the two toughest teams in this top side. If you end up against Supremacy, then we're going to have to kind of track how that plays against each other. But I mean, Game Lord, the aggressive playstyle is so fun to watch. I really, really enjoy watching Game Lord play Wild Rift. They make it so quick to close out games.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to disappoint you too much, but this didn't feel like the real Game Lord. This felt more like, you know, we're just gonna get through this series, and we'll show you Game Lord later on. Because yeah, they were, you know, they were kind of trolling in this game at the end. Not trolling, but as in not playing efficiently as they can. Because in the first game, they were playing a bit better than the second game, but in the second game, they were just rolling around on the map all the time.
Yeah, I think that we historically have seen that when teams end up against competition that you know that they already feel like they've won the series before you even load into the Rift. And some people will find that like egotistical or arrogant in a way, but it's kind of just the way the competition is. Like, it's so high pressure when you are playing against the best teams that sometimes when you have these games where you're like, well, we won game 1 in 15 minutes and we're 8 minutes in with basically like an astronomical lead. Let's just do a limit test for a while, see how good this Garen is and try and get it. But then you saw them rein it in with that last play of just kind of crush the last team fight and go, okay, well, we're just going to win now. Yeah, the gold graphs, everything kind of tells the same story, that not really any way of Aphelion actually bouncing back into this late game carry where they played Bane in game 1 and by playing Kai'Sa in game 2. I just don't think that helped in the draft by doing that against such a strong early game team.
And I love how Heste nearly did the same damage as Lee Sin. And here, yet again, like you see, this graph is deja vu from last game. It looks exactly the same as last game. Just a steady lead, getting to the late game, and yeah, easy win. It's really nothing special right there. Game Lord just dominating the game, and not too much to talk about, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like game 1 was a good look at the macro play from Game Lord. I feel like they're the cleanest team that we've seen. And this was the same in the Purge tournament that Stuart and I casted in January. Is I came out of the games feeling like, okay, they understand the current meta and the way to play with it the best out of the teams we've seen. And up until this point, I would agree on the weekend as well. Viv looked really good and Zero Zone looked really good, but I think there's just like this one extra bit of cleanliness from Game Lord, other than the second game, like second half, where they got a little rough around the edges. I think they have a really good understanding of the macro and the meta right now. I want to hear a little bit from Game Lord. That's what I want to do. So we're going to head over to an interview with Stuart, one of the Game Lord players.
Thank you very much, Stress. I'm indeed joined by Ruiz, who is the mid laner of Game Lord. Ruiz, how are you feeling? How's the team feeling after that victory?
Hi, first of all, thank you for inviting me in the interview, and that feels good. Like, win always feel good.
Awesome stuff. And for yourself as well, obviously before you was on Team Queso and you got to go to the Horizon Cup, which for you was probably a great experience. But now on Game Lord, how are you feeling with the team now? How has the transition been from Team Queso over to Game Lord?
If I'm honest, like first of all, like talk about like chain from TQ to GameLord will be hard for me because I didn't know about like their play style, about if they will understand how I play, how they play. But actually, I don't know, like it was too easy to adapt to them because they're very good players. They have very good understanding in the game, and they are just like helping me a lot to play a mid lane. And yeah, it was like very easier because they are very good players in overall.
Awesome stuff. And the next series as well, you could be facing your old team, Team Queso, as well in the next round of the tournament. They'll be playing against Supremacy. What's your thoughts going into that series? Do you have any predictions going into that one?
I love them so much, okay, because they are my old team and we won the last Origin series, but I think we will beat them 2-0 because I think we play better as a team and as a family than them. So we will beat them for sure.
Awesome stuff. Ruiz, thank you very much for the interview. Good luck for the rest of the tournament. Back to Stress and Cast to wrap up the first series of the day.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for supporting us. Bye-bye. See you.
Great to hear from Ruiz. I love that, like the transition from Queso to GameLord. Well, I haven't really had to think about it too much because it's been so easy. I mean, yeah, when you've got a jungler like Zephyr and the top laner, like honestly, the whole lineup is great. But like Ruiz just gets to do his own thing. He's like, just pick me whatever I want, like whether it's Zed or whether it's an Olaf. Just give me the room to play, and I'll do everything that you need me to. So no surprise from Ruiz. We're going to take another quick look at that second game. A little bit rough around the edges, but I think there were some really key moments and the play of the game for this series. Walk us through, Hells. I'm gonna guess it's that Rift Herald play, just like it was in the first game. Oh, it's the bot lane fight. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can actually see the bot lane play where Heste had a beautiful ultimate with the Nami and they just diving super deep, getting all the kills. And here it was already enough. And although they were kinda hinting by diving a little too deep, giving away 2 free kills to Afel and Esports, but yet again, they're just really showing their dominance. They're asserting the dominance right there. But I really hope they keep this clip rolling because the real play of the game, in my opinion, was when the Nami was able to escape from this moment right here. And unfortunately they don't, but like that whole play was perfect after those 2 misplays, right? Diving a little too deep. They were able to escape with all 3 allies alive with less than 10% HP, which was just so funny to see from GameLords that they're even able to do something like that.
Yeah, we were. That was certainly at the point where GameLords were like, okay, we've already won. Let's just run behind the mid lane inhibitor with Garen. It's all good. I mean, there are so many players that performed in this series. I think there's arguments you could make for all of the GameLord roster. I mean, Redemption had really good damage output in general. Hester, I think when you look across two games, like how many bans he drew and still having that performance. Let's check out who got our MVP of the series. Yeah, I really don't know who this is going to be. This is for the first time so far. All 5 players, I think, could get this. It is going to be Hester. Support's getting the MVP. Oh, put the respect on Hester.
Yeah, this is where you support mains out there. We saw the respect bans against Hesta. I think 80% of the bans were all aimed towards Hesta, which is incredible to see because like they're all scary, but yet Aphelion thought that Heste was the biggest threat by banning out all of the support picks, but still, he picked the Nami, he picked the supports that are left and is dominating the game regardless.
I'm so happy. We got a support MVP and it's totally deserved. It's so deserved in that performance. Hester throwing a ton of bans in this series and still making Nami look engage worthy. So GameLord closed that series 2-0 over Aphelion. Our next series is another banger. It's Team Queso versus Supremacy. We will be back in a couple of minutes to get that series underway.